Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley Ariana and I'm joined by the wonderful Tom Jensen. Hi Tom, how you doing?
Hi, Ashley. Fine. How are you?
I'm doing really good. The 49er fan in me is screaming, but
Yeah.
the just person in me is is doing well. Obviously Super Bowl 60, Seahawks won last night in the Bay Area. Hard for the Seahawks, I guess, to win in your as a fan, your home stadium. But I was telling you before the stream, really nice to see just people from all over the world coming and giving San Francisco and the Bay Area its flowers. You and I both have roots here. I grew up here and then live here in Oakland now, and I think I've seen other people talk about this, but I've traveled for the game for some of the 49er games, and you'll go to these different states and they'll be like, oh, where are you from? And certain ones will look like, when you say from the Bay Area, they'll be like, oh, and I'm like, oh, what do you mean? Oh, it's like the most like, you think it costs
People.
$7 million to live there for no reason? Like, it's
Right.
incredible.
Right. And then
So
those same people show up here and they look around. Oh, this is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Didn't know. Come on, people. But
I've always
now they know that,
yeah,
that San Francisco is a jewel. And that's a cool thing. That's the nice thing about the Bay Area getting the Super Bowl is you get a chance to showcase the city.
yeah.
It's cool. It's nice.
Now you and I have talked about this too, but the irony of all the events, or 99% of the events, being in downtown San Francisco at the Moscone Center, outside Oracle Park, there was stuff, which is beautiful landscape.
Sure.
And then I think it probably surprised some people who flew and stayed in San Francisco for Super Bowl, Radio Row. And then when Sunday actually came, they were like, wait, we're
Where are we going?
hour and 45 minutes. And that's not
Yeah.
even, I can't even imagine all the traffic.
Right.
The train that goes from Oakland to right outside Levi's was crazy packed. You also normally it's like a lot of business people. When
Right.
the fans, they get drunk, and so they're partying, celebrating on the way there, and then on the way back, it's just like you're seeing people just hanging on, just trying to get back to their hotel room.
Yeah, they're just dragging.
Yeah. You're like, oh, they're kind of not here.
Yeah.
Julie has a great point. Every city has their crappy areas.
Yeah.
Across the entire country. But anyways, what we're here to talk about is the 49ers. Moving forward, we're going to have a lot to talk about this offseason. Seems like, a very important one. The combine's coming up in like 3 weeks. I think it's March 20th, that around that week.
Combine's in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Oh my God, I'm way off.
Yeah.
Oh,
They get right on it.
February? Is it
Yeah,
February?
it's less than 3 weeks away.
Okay, here. You're totally right. Tom, in my mind, there was no way that it was that soon. And I knew, like, on my calendar, I have like marked the 22nd. And so I was like, oh, it must be March 22nd, because there's no way it's literally the 22nd that's about to happen.
Yeah.
God, these things happen quick.
It jumps right on it. Yeah. Well, that's the NFL. They want to make that thing done. So,
yeah.
okay.
By the way, that means you better like and subscribe, because we got
we got a lot of stuff today.
Okay, so getting into the actual game, was it more? Did it go how you expected?
Yeah. I thought that, and what we said last week was that nobody is going to be able to handle the Mike McDonald defense the first time they see it. Look what happened to Brock, 4 picks.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen to Drake May and Josh McDaniels. And that's exactly what went down. They had no idea of what they were facing, and their offense did absolutely nothing. And, that's the thing that I told all these people, all these fans from New England, all the Boston silos, and telling them, No, you don't understand. You face this defense the first time, you lose.
Yeah.
And they're, well, but, and then they'd sit outside all these stats. No. So yeah, it's basically how I thought it would go.
I felt like I wasn't obviously that impressed with Drake May. Now, I think there was a couple of things. Like, did he miss some opportunities? Like, can you go back and look at the film?
A few. Yeah.
Yes. But I also felt like there was a lot of times he was under pressure from the Seahawks front four. And I also was really unimpressed with Josh McDaniels. Sorry, hiccups randomly hit me. Josh McDaniels. I felt like he didn't necessarily put Drake in the most advantageous position, which was a little bit surprising since, he's won multiple Super Bowls. I expected better of him.
Yeah, well, I think that McDaniels, just like me, got shook. That Mike McDonald did things he didn't expect, and it's sort of like a boxer landing a punch early in a fight, and then you're just kind of dazed. I think that's what happened in New England is they got hit badly early, and they staggered the rest of the game.
You and I even talked about last week. I said we both had picked the Seahawks to win, and I said the only way I felt like the Patriots were going to hang in there and was going to be if they could impose themselves offensively. And I thought they were going to have to be aggressive, try to take the ball first, try to score first, like really show that they could show up on offense. And because I thought the Seahawks on offense were going to be able to do enough to hang in there. Mm-hmm. And the Seahawks defense was going to be the game-changing element for all of the teams. Like each team was going to have to respond to what the Seahawks defense were doing. That it was going to dictate, if the Patriots were going to be able to throw more. The Patriots could not run the ball at all. If you look at the Seahawks' last few performances, no team could run the ball against this Seahawks defense. When you turn it to the 49ers, it's so interesting how the Seahawks built their team. The hiccups. It's so interesting how the Seahawks built their team because the foundation is like they had a dominant defense and a dominant run game or runner. Now they did have a dominant offensive line, but the dominant defense and the dominant run game is kind of elements that you saw in the 49ers on their Super Bowl run. And something that you've said is like when you go back and scout those teams, the 49ers teams that made it to the Super Bowl, the reason they ended up losing that game was because they were missing that third element, the offensive line. Like, yes, you could say the quarterback wasn't good enough, special teams, all that. But if just the offensive line was better, the quarterback could have been good enough. The run could have been good enough. And that could have negated, one single issue, which might have been enough to put them over to the edge. And I just
because the games were close enough that they could have been, it's one or two plays kind of a thing. And that applied to both Super Bowls, really. If they complete that bomb, changes the game. If Brock can make that pass before the blitz gets to him, different game. So, you have to factor in that the offensive line was basically the margin of victory for Kansas City.
Yeah.
Or their defensive line against the Niners offensive line, rather.
This is a bit of like a, I guess, matter of opinion. But when you looked at the Coach of the Year, there was the NFL honors happened the night before the Super Bowl. And Mike Vrabel won Coach of the Year with the most votes. Second most votes was Liam Cohn. Then
that's me.
I'm looking out my window.
I'm on ambulance row.
Then it was Mike McDonald. Do you think that is because maybe he's a defensive coordinator, so he gets less credit, just underrated? Because when you go to those, like everyone on that list, all the coaches on that list, Mike McDonald faced them and beat them up.
Yep.
I kind of thought that was interesting. Kyle was on that list, Ben Johnson.
Right. Okay, so who got the most votes? The coaches in the Eastern time zone. Who votes the most? Reporters in the Eastern time zone.
Got it. So you see a little
Every year. East Coast sports bias dominates the awards every single year. That's what this was about. Why did McDonald and Kyle get so few votes? They're on the West.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Got it. When you compare the two quarterbacks, because I didn't feel like Sam Darnold, and I gave him a ton of praise on my post game show, like not for lack of better words, not fucking it up is good. Like you get credit for that. But he didn't in this game have an all-star performance. I think the NFC Championship game, if you were to compare his performance there versus the Super Bowl, he was much more impressive in my opinion, and kind of had to duel his way with his offense and with his arm more in the NFC Championship game than in this game. When you think about the fact that Sam Darnold is a Super Bowl champion, and you look at his performance last night, what are your takeaways?
That the NFC Championship was his career game, and it had to be for them to get there. And that sometimes getting to the Super Bowl when one conference is way better, winning your conference game basically signals you're going to win the Super Bowl. That was back in the day when the Niners and the Cowboys would fight each other out, and whoever won that game won the Super Bowl. This is the same thing. The NFC was a better conference this year by far. They had the more complete teams. So I think that was it, is that Darnold got through what he had to. He was great when he had to be. And in this game, he wasn't good. He had a worse quarterback rating than May, and May played badly. But Darnold didn't turn the ball over, and that's all he had to do because the defense was that good. And going forward, the scary thing is Darnold still doesn't have to be that good because the defense is so great. So you can say they're going to lose Clint Kubiak. Yeah, so do they need Darnold to be that great? No. So Seattle wins with their defense. And right now, the NFL, best defense wins because that's where the innovation is happening. So Seattle's in a good place, regardless of losing Kubiak.
I think that's a good question for us to linger on a little bit, though, just because the Seahawks are in the 49ers division and, coming off the Super Bowl, they look like the best team in the NFL right now. And I see no major reason why they wouldn't be next year or why they wouldn't be at least more dominant than I think whether or not they run it back and win a Super Bowl, I think they're probably going to be top of the NFC West and NFC.
Well, they and the Rams. It's Seattle and the Rams are the best two teams in the league by a distance.
Yeah.
Nobody else is close to them. And next year, I think it's going to be more of the same because Seattle has a lot of cap room so they can re-sign their guys. The Rams have a lot of cap room too, and the Rams have two number ones, including the 13th pick.
And both teams have really good GMs.
And both GMs know what they're doing. So this is another year where they can create even more distance between themselves and the league because they've got smart GMs, a lot of cap room, and good picks.
So you don't anticipate a drop-off. I saw some, 49er fans are watching, so they're trying to – so I saw some, Kubiak's going to leave them. Walker is – going to be in free agency. Like they're not going to be this.
They're going to keep Walker. Walker was the star. Walker is emerging. All the talk in Seattle is they will do whatever it takes, and he wants to stay. So I don't think they're going to lose Walker. In terms of replacing Kubiak, the guy that's getting the talk up here is Jake Dietz. He was their passing game coordinator. So he might be the offensive coordinator. McDonald also has some ties to Arthur Smith. He could be the offensive coordinator. But the talk here is it's probably Dietz. So there's a lot of continuity because he was involved in the game plan as the passing game coordinator. They're not going to lose a lot.
Well, that's not promising for the 49ers.
Yeah, it's bad news for the Niners, but there we are.
Accurate. Sorry, I saw JM 617. His comment. Nope, it's the one right above that. Someone said,
where the Eagles dropped off, and that's true. You can have a Super Bowl hangover where you become too overconfident. That's possible, but Sirianni isn't their coach. It's Mike McDonald. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I feel like
that's one. And two, it's a younger team all over. Basically these are guys who were drafted in the last 3 years that are making this thing run. And usually the younger players are just hungry for more. They say, okay, we got one, let's keep going. As opposed to an older group that'll say, like Philly had, Saquon, for example, later on in his career. So he's going to take the opinion of, I got one. And the younger guys are going to say, we got one, we're young, we're great, let's go for more. If I had to put money down in Vegas tomorrow, I would put my money on the Rams to win the Super Bowl next year, and that Stafford will win it and retire, and then the Rams fall. And that might be the best scenario for the Niners, really, is for the Rams to win it so that you get rid of Stafford, because the Rams without him are a far different team. So, we'll see how it goes. But Seattle and the Rams are the best two teams, and it's not close, and they've got a lot of assets to get better. That's going to make it hard.
Tom, what that reminds me of is like two teams. There's like, a little less than 2 minutes left, and this offense is right here trying to score a touchdown. And sometimes the defense, it's almost better just let them score a touchdown right now. That way we can get back on offense and go respond versus them draining the clock and then scoring the touchdown. That scenario kind of played when you're like, just give Stafford his Super Bowl and then move on. And then that would also line up with when I'm anticipating them moving off of John Lynch. Although we can get into it because I haven't really talked about it on here. Jed York, why is he ever allowed to talk? No offense to him, but dude,
he's not good at it.
He had two horrible interviews. One was one was really short with Kay Adams. One was like 25 minutes. And the interviewer was such a badass. He was like, all the fans who always tell 49ers beat reporters, like, ask the follow-ups, like when they're BSing you, interject and be like, no, this guy was doing all of that. I was so impressed. I listened to it like twice. I listened to a bunch of clips on Twitter, and then I was like, I got to go actually find this whole thing. Anyways, Jed York was asked, it kind of came up in a weird way. He was asked if he regrets firing Jim Harbaugh and sticking with Trent Baalke in that relationship breakup. And Jed wouldn't say that, which was kind of annoying because it's like very obvious that out of the two, the one that's been more successful is Harbaugh. But anyways, he clutches his pearls and he tries to, give a BS response to get out of that. But it parlays into a conversation about your GM and your head coach getting along, their working relationship or friendship. And Jed was basically saying, we had the opportunity to, which additionally, he just puts his foot in his mouth. He said something, he was like,
well,
the problem.
He's not accustomed to speaking in public, and it shows.
He was like,
he needs to have a handler that guides him through these things.
Yeah.
He's not prepped for these. He should be.
Tom, he was like talking about Baalke and Harbaugh, and he was like, well, the problem, like, when you have this disgruntled relationship going on, you can be in a position where you should have won a Super Bowl or multiple Super Bowls, but, you weren't able to because the relationship was bad. That's why it's so important that now we have Kyle and John. And I wanted to, like, call through the screen and be like, they have also not won a Super Bowl and had the chance to win Super Bowls. Like, I understand the point of what he was saying, but that reasoning that he gave was obviously such bullshit because
the reasoning is stuck in the past. This was the prior problem. That problem has now been fixed, so we're good. No. What you need to do is focus on competency. And then you would realize our picks have been bad. We need to do something about the GM. Period. And instead, he focuses on the relationship between Kyle and John. That's nice. It's cool they like each other. It's cool that they work well together. But has that led to great picks? No.
Yeah.
And so here we are. I mean, Jed, focus on what you need to focus on. It's not the relationship that matters here. It's the picks.
He's like the worst businessman billionaire ever, right? Like, you own a football team, and he's like, as long as we're all friends. It's like, no, that's not That's
this
not
isn't the campfire. It's not the San Francisco Kumbaya.
Yeah.
It's the Niners. It's the 5 rings.
That being juxtaposed by the Rise of the 49ers,
Oh, I know.
little short TV series that they put out. I watched the first episode the other day because it was like free on YouTube. And I don't know how accurate everything is, but a lot of it plays kind of like a highlight tape,
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's like the NFL Films annual year of whatever the Niners did that year. Yeah, it's the same stuff.
I still loved it. And it was just funny that, like, in the same week that Jed York is on an interview saying that them losing in the second round of the playoffs was them what's that word?
Far exceeding expectations is, I think, what he said.
He's on a podcast saying that in the same day you can, or hour, you can type on YouTube and there's an interview of Eddie DeBarlo right now being like, that's unacceptable and we never had that mindset, and if we lost in any game that wasn't winning the Super Bowl, we treated it like we missed the playoffs. Like we did.
And that's both regimes in a nutshell.
Yeah.
It's Eddie was about rings or bust. Jed is about the cash register, and never the two shall meet.
Yeah. Okay. So Eddie, so do you think that this interview kind of tried to press Eddie on the fact that they have not had a ton of talent drafted, specifically in the higher rounds? Most talent isn't even playing on the field, drafted in the higher rounds in most recent years. So basically, he was getting at the fact that the interviewer was criticizing John Lynch's drafting ability in the early rounds, and then asking Jed York to answer for it. And instead of answering for it, he said, we're all friends and we all get along, and it's really important that we all get along. Is that how he really feels?
Yeah.
Or
because he's reacting to what failed initially, and what's in his head is what failed initially, as opposed to what fails now. So yeah, do I think that he really means that? Yeah, I do.
Okay, well, I wanted you to say no. He was just lying to sound good.
Oh no, he's lying about other stuff. He's lying about the substation. He's not lying. He's not lying about what he wants at GM. He wants kumbaya because he didn't have kumbaya before.
Do you think that you can win a Super Bowl when your main focus is saving money as a billionaire and making sure everyone's best friends?
Well, it's that stuff with Jed, plus Kyle's offensive line philosophy, and building a team based on the offensive scheme as opposed to physical skill sets, and drafting for need instead of best player available. I mean, you add all that stuff up, it's amazing that they were in 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
But they did really well in those Super Bowls. It's just 22 through 25, you look through the draft and you go with that for Seattle, for example, it's 9 guys who are the very heart of their team and their best players. That's all these guys were drafted in the last 3 years. The Niners, it's Brock Purdy and so that's the problem, is that Seattle has 9 guys from the last 3 drafts and you got 1. That's how you lose.
What do you think for, like you said, the combine is coming up? Are the 49ers going to be more focused on getting a speed guy? Like, when I look at Seattle, I think they need speed to be able to compete. They need to invest in their trenches. The Seahawks were one of the teams that blitzed least in the league, and they were able to get a ton of pressure with just 4. It's something kind of interesting that they did, and maybe you could, this is side notey, but that they did in the Patriots game Super Bowl just now, is they did blitz a little bit more than the Patriots were probably expecting. They blitzed, I think, 7 times, which is the most that they've blitzed in any game this year, even though they have Witherspoon on their team, who a lot of people would say is one of the best blitzers in the NFL. But because they've been able to get pressure with 4 so easily all year, they just haven't needed to use that. Going into the Super Bowl, do you think that they did that to try to just do something unexpected? Is it something they were seeing with the New England?
It's Mike McDonald knowing I've got this in my bag and now I'm going to use it.
Wow. Because all year people were wondering.
Yeah, because Witherspoon had not been blitzed in 5 straight games. And in this game, he blitzed all the time. They had the overload, and then they had Witherspoon blitzing. And it worked all the time. I mean, they had, 7 blitzes, and they got pressure 6 times. And Witherspoon was all over May and created that turnover into a touchdown. So, Witherspoon's one of the best defensive players in the league. Witherspoon and Gonzalez, both DBs, were amazing in this game. And it shows the value of great secondary play can cause championships.
Yeah.
And Bill Walsh learned that. He drafted Ronnie Lott, Eric Wright, Carlton Williamson in one draft, got his secondary in 1 year, and they were the secondary for 5-7 years. He learned that. Kyle and John, not so much. So there we are. But in terms of what they need to do a lot, because really, Kyle said it before the game. He said the key with Seattle is they play their safeties so far back because they can stop the run with their 4 guys up front, and their secondary is very good. Their back 7 is all great tacklers.
Julian Love.
How do you stop that? Julian Love, the safety, very smart safety, one of the highest IQ safeties in the league, arguably the highest. So you've got a very smart safety. Plus, you've got Eamon Worry, who's a linebacker as safety and a big nickel all in one guy. It's amazing when you can get 3 positions out of 1 player. He makes their defense. So he's part of it too. But basically what Seattle is structured to do is win with their 4 up front and then use their 7 in hybrid roles to cover or tackle because they do both really well.
Can you explain maybe what type of safety Julian Love was? Because I thought it was interesting how much praise Kyle gave him. And do the 49ers have a safety like that on their team, or are they going to go try to get one? Because
they need one.
I felt like Kyle was singling him out.
Yeah, because Kyle loves the intelligence that Julian Love plays with. He's always in the right position on the field. He can read the play, know what's about to happen, anticipate it, and react in time where he's there to do something about it. It's just he's a quarterback for the defense at safety is basically what Julian Love is. And that's why Kyle loves him, because Julian Love causes Kyle a lot of trouble. And where Kyle succeeds is when he can identify a weakness on a defense and kill him with it. If you've got 11 starters and 9 of them are great, Kyle's going to find those 2 and beat you with it. And that's where the Niners offense has succeeded all year and throughout Kyle's tenure. If you've got a weakness, Kyle can beat you. If you don't, if you've got 11 great starters, that's Mike McDonald, that's Jim Schwartz, and Kyle doesn't beat those guys because they've got all 11. Kyle needs a weakness to succeed. If he's got 11 and it's man up, he usually doesn't, because you will then lose other matchups. And the NFL and the playoffs especially is matchups. And so the Niners lose that automatically on the offensive line because of his philosophy.
Speaking of the offensive line, because I'm trying to also bring in combine, what are they going to be looking for at the combine?
Okay.
They talked about, I think speed is going to be, vital to this team because they just have they're old and slow. And when you look at the Seahawks, you did a good job about saying their, starters, their 9 most important players out there are all guys that they drafted in the last 3 years. When you look at the 49ers, their most important guys are guys that they drafted 10 plus years ago, or that were drafted by some other team 10 plus years ago, who are, slower now, injury prone now. And I guess Ricky Pearsall, but he's not even when he's healthy, he's not necessarily like a huge speed guy. So
he's quick. At least he's faster than the guys they do have. So that's something. But so what are they going to look like? What are they going to look for at the combine? They have to look at offensive line.
Yeah.
The problem is that Kyle will always apply this, and you can do this. It's rote. You run a fast 20 shuttle time, Kyle will be interested. You don't, he won't. So there's guys that you can automatically go as soon as they run their 20 shuttle. You know who Kyle is going to have, who's naughty and nice, who's on his list that he likes, who's on his list he doesn't, and he's going to eliminate those guys. So there are players the fans love who aren't going to run a good 20 shuttle time, and they'll be off Kyle's list. Jennings Dunker, the gingerbread man from Iowa, tackle is going to play guard in the league. He's too slow to the second level. Kyle won't consider him. The guard from Oregon, Pregnon, too slow. The guard from Penn State, too slow. So Kyle is going to apply his speed dynamic when he should be saying, in order to beat the Seattle defense, I need speed, size, power. I need all three. He's only drafting on speed. That's one of the main problems here. But what's Kyle going to do? You're asking, what's he going to do with the combine? Who runs a fast 20 shuttle in offensive line? That's who Kyle's going to be interested in. That's the one drill to pay the most attention to when you see the feed from Indy. That's the drill. That's the drill for Kyle. So offensive line is one. Wide receiver is another. There's any number of ways they can go. This draft is heavy at slot receiver more than the other spots, but I would argue that what the Niners need most is an X receiver, so they need more size. The problem is that you can be kind of fooled by the mock drafts right now. The guy that I think is the best receiver for where they would pick is Omar Cook Jr. from Indiana. He's the best yak guy. He has the best overall skills. He's not necessarily someone who's in the first round yet, but he might be by the time you get to Indy. We'll see. I don't like KC Concepcion. 10% drop rate, 4 fumbles in 2 years. Beats man, doesn't beat zone. Not what they need. Denzel Boston. He's got long speed, but he's not quick. He doesn't have a release tree. He doesn't have a route tree. He's physical size, but he doesn't play a physical game. So do you want either one of those guys? Me? No. Do not give me Concepcion. Do not give me Boston. I don't want either. I don't want any part of either one of those guys. So the danger for Kyle is that if he goes for the shiny object and he says, I want this guy, might not be the guy that works best. The guy that would work best for him is Mekhi Lemon. He'll be gone. You know, Mekhi Lemon is compared to Puka Nacua, and he's got similar in terms of what his skill set is. And then there's Carnell Lake from Ohio State. He'll be gone too soon. Jordan Tyson from Arizona State gets hurt all the time. I would not pick him regardless, but he'll be gone before they pick anyway, so it won't matter.
Was there a tight end that you were highlighting?
Yeah.
I know that's not a receiver, but
but it is. Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon, who's the best athlete at tight end. He can block, he can catch. And if you want to go after Seattle, the way that you beat a freak is by having one of your own. And that's what Sadiq is. Sadiq is an athletic freak. You want to take out Nick Eamon-Warry, you draft Sadiq. That's how you go strength against strength, is that you have somebody that's physical, fast, great athlete, powerful. That's what you want. So what I would do, and I know it's me, they never do what I do. I would say trade 27 and Mac Jones for 16 to the Jets, who are evaluating quarterbacks at 16. Mac Jones is better than any quarterback they could get at 16. So you trade Jones and 27 for 16 and like they're fifth. And then you take Sadiq at 16. Or you do that same thing with Minnesota at 18. But I would want Sadiq because you need to take care of a tight end to replace Kittle, who is more fragile now and is going to miss a big chunk of next year.
Yeah.
And you need the second tight end anyway. And part of the way that you can beat Seattle is the way the Rams have. The Rams say, okay, you guys want to play with basically a nickel package, but because you got Eamon-Warry, you can get away with it. We're going to send 3 tight ends at you, and we're going to run on you. And the Rams succeed that way. Niners need to do the same thing. Sadiq would be part of that. Part of the way that you beat Seattle running is by adding Sadiq. Part of the way you beat Seattle by making them have to worry about Eamon-Warry in his matchup is Sadiq. So I would do that. But, Mr. Corey, no doubt. It's just the kumbaya culture infiltrates everything. And it's just kind of horrible. That's not the thing to do. It's just, George is hurt a lot. George is in his 30s now.
It's the back end of his career.
And I don't think George would be hurt by it. I think George would be excited by the opportunity to mentor somebody to take over and be part of his legacy going forward. I think George would embrace it, but that's me.
I think that they need to, they're not in a position right now. the two teams in their own division have rebuilt their own teams and are now at the top. Like they're now flowing together as a unit and going into multiple years together. So not only do they have the like aggression and speed the young guys have, but they've been around just enough to really be familiar with each other and have that connection. Right. You cannot, while you're rebuilding your team, be trying to be careful to not hurt someone's feelings who's not going to be making an impact on the roster after next year. You know what I mean? Like, we don't even know if George Kittle is going to be on the team in 2 years. You can't be making decisions based on how he's going to feel.
Yeah, and I think it's also
going to feel bad.
I also don't think that's how George is going to feel anyway.
I agree with you on that.
George is the ultimate pro. George founded Tight End University. Yeah. He loves the opportunity to mentor guys and has.
Yeah.
And if he had that on his own team, I think that he would embrace having Sadiq. I really do. And the Niners shouldn't think that way anyway. It's just you're gonna. We don't want to hurt his feelings. Therefore, we're not going to draft his. Are you crazy? No. So yeah, and I don't think the Niners are that foolish. At least I hope not. But yeah, I would go after Sadiq. I don't know if they will. They keep insisting we are trading Mac Jones, but I think that part of that is they want to drum up interest, and you're not going to get interest because the league is going to say we want to see what the quarterbacks look like at Indy. Once you see that the quarterbacks at Indy suck, and they do outside of Mendoza, then I think the Niners will start to get some draft offers for Mac Jones because they have to see the quarterbacks fail first before they're going to do anything.
And you think
NFL being the NFL, that's what they do.
And you think it's likely that it'll be something like pairing 2 picks together to get a higher round pick versus just Mac Jones for like a second or something?
Yeah, I think it's something like that where it's 27 and Mac Jones to move up in the first is more likely than Mac Jones for a late second round pick. You know, it's what does your team more good and what does Lynch more good in trying to protect his job is to go up and get the higher impact rookie. Lynch has to prove he can draft. The best way he can do that is by going up in the first.
Yeah.
But
I didn't even think about that. There's kind of like with this, without Lynch having that contract extension, if he doesn't want to be, promoted to president of football operations in a year, he might feel a lot of pressure to nail this draft because then maybe he feels like he can make a case for himself. Like, hey, I'm, last year I got Upton Stout. Maybe, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe he's saying, I didn't want to go up and get Trey Lance and I supported drafting X, Y, and Z. I'm sure behind the scenes, these guys are all making cases for why their picks are the right picks. So
yeah, well, you have to. It's second nature, but yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, if you're a 49ers fan and looking for a reason to be optimistic, one can just be like looking past this year onto next year and going, John Lynch isn't going to be here. But if you want a reason to get excited right now, you could say, well, maybe because there's more pressure on John Lynch, maybe he's listening to scouts more, he's taking it more seriously, and maybe they can perform better in this draft due to that pressure.
Possibly.
Versus like, being fat and happy or whatever. Normally they have an extension.
Yeah, it wouldn't be status quo. In other words, they would be more aggressive. They would be more active because Lynch has to be to save his job. And so, yeah, I think that as a function of job security, attempting at least to keep his job, moving up in the draft makes sense. But do it with Mac Jones. Under no circumstances do you do it with the 2027 number 1. That draft is the best draft in a decade. You do not trade from the great draft for the mediocre one this year. That would be GM malpractice. So I use Mac Jones, and I think that they want to move Mac Jones. They're just not getting offers, but they're not getting offers because the quarterbacks haven't shown up yet at Indianapolis. Once they do, then the offers will start.
Yeah. Marcus says, can't pull the plug on Kittle too much because he has guaranteed money. Tom and I aren't saying to, get rid of Kittle. We're saying
I'm saying add to him.
Injury-wise, he literally is probably not going to be able to play for part of next year. And even if he can play, just due to where he's at in his career, injury and age-wise, and he's slowing down a little bit. So adding a guy to this is what I've been advocating they do with Trent Williams. Like have a guy, except for with tight end, you can actually have them both on the field at the same time, so it's even more
Right.
beneficial. But just have a guy developing, learning from, like, if you think George Kittle, is a Hall of Fame tight end or the best tight end, then you want to have someone there watching how he trains, how he, holds his hands when he's blocking, if that's the thing that he does the best, So it's good to
Take
have
advantage
someone.
of George while he's here right. It's use George as a mentor while he's still here. You don't want him to be tight end university helping guys along. You want him to be within the Niners guiding Sadiq. That's the value. But yeah, to Marcus's point, I'm not saying that Kittle's now out to pasture. I'm saying take a page from the Rams. 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends. That's how they're running on Seattle. That's what the Niners need to do. So I'm not saying replace George. Early on in the season next year, he will, because Kittle can't play until like week 6, week 8, whatever it is. But going forward, once they are both healthy, play both of them.
Yeah. By the way, I do think Tom and I aren't doctors, but I see some people saying like, oh, he's, says he's going to be back much before then. I would just like to say, when Chris McCaffrey was dealing with his injuries, Tom and I were like, he's not going to be back when he says he's going to be back. This is a serious injury. When everyone was saying Fred Warner was going to come back for week 18 and then week 1 of the playoffs, and then, if they go to the championship of the playoffs, came to find out Fred was just talking on NSNBC for his pre and post game. Did an excellent job, by the way. But he said that even if they went to the Super Bowl, like, he was going to push to try, but he was not even close to being cleared by doctors.
No. He's not cleared for months.
Yeah. So,
but Fred being Fred, he wanted to try and give him full credit for that. I love Fred for that. But it was never realistic to begin with, really.
Really quick, I want to shout out, thank you so much, Edgar, for the super sticker. I always really appreciate those. And then I saw a different comment also from Marcus. It was up here that I wanted to ask you about. Tom, this goes back to combining the 49ers first round pick and Mac Jones to end up moving earlier up in the draft and drafting the tight end. Tom is on the package first round in Mac Jones move. Where is he? I didn't quite understand this. Is he saying
the Jets made a trade as part of the trades that the Jets made with Green Bay, and then Green Bay made with Dallas to get Micah Parsons? That 16th pick ends up falling to the Jets. Is the dominoes of all of that. But the bottom line is the Jets are at 16, and there are reports from New York that they are evaluating possible quarterbacks at that pick. If the Niners then step in and say, here's Mac Jones instead, he's better than anybody they could get at 16. Because this draft is terrible. After Mendoza, this draft falls off at quarterback. There aren't any good ones. So, yeah, that's what you do.
If you're the Jets and you're trying to rebuild your entire team and you're trying to roster, I'd rather have a placeholder like Mac Jones and an extra first-round pick than give up my first-round pick for a quarterback who's probably not going to be able to succeed because, A, he's not that good, and B, he's on a shitty team. I think that's
it's a good move for them. Plus, they have the second pick anyway, so they have already made a pick, and then they pick at 16. Do they really need that? Not necessarily. I think that if you're the Jets, you'd rather have Mac Jones at 16, especially if you have Mac Jones in the 27th pick. There's not a lot of difference between 16 and 27 in this draft. Yeah. So if I'm the Jets, I jump on that trade. And if I'm the Niners, I jump on it too, because part of this is the Niners need stars. They don't just need starters. They need stars. Sadiq can be a star. Go get one.
If they do, like in this hypothetical scenario where they switch picks, they get Sadiq, okay, I'd be happy with that. I'd be a bit annoyed because they've used a lot of high picks on players that should be skill positions, like, for example, wide receivers that have never worked out. But I'd be like, I'd be happy with the tight end. There be...
He's a one-of-one guy, too. He's the only guy in this draft who can block and catch.
Would there be interior offensive lineman that they could get with their second round pick. Because in that case, their first round pick is taken. Because I do think because I'm trying to keep in mind, we're saying, one, how did the 49ers get better in general? But two, after watching the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, the Seahawks face the 49ers, the Seahawks face the Patriots, how do you build a team to beat them? One is speed and skill position player talent. But two, I think a huge thing, going back to looking at the Rams, having a good offensive line is going to make, and looking at the 49ers where they've, lost before, their O-line needs some serious help. I know
it does. The question is, should it be in the offensive line in the draft or in free agency? If you want to beat the Seattle defensive line, you have to win the matchup individually. You need the physical skill sets to do it. Kyle only drafts offensive linemen based on speed, and so you're still going to lose that matchup anyway, even if you use the pick. So what do you really need to do? You need to use free agency and get a veteran with power who can win that matchup on the offensive line. So Johnson from Buffalo is a good guard. Seumalo from Pittsburgh is a great guard, really powerful, but he's older. He's 32. Johnson is 28. And so you can do that. It's just, if you want to win, if you want to run against Seattle, you need to use free agency to do it. I would say, and I'm saying this in my next article, at running back, you replace CMC. You make him your third down back only. Your feature back is Travis Etienne from Jacksonville. You get speed. You get a guy that can catch the ball, run the ball, is a breakaway threat, and is proven over his career. That's a guy I would want. I don't want to keep handing the ball off to Christian. Part of the reason they need speed at running back, because that's how you can also attack Seattle defensively. They depend on speed. If you have a faster running back and you've got a powerful neutralizer up front in a veteran free agent like Seumalo or Johnson, and then you go after them, that's the formula. And then you have Sadiq blocking at tight end. Then you have a wide receiver who can block, Malachi Fields, for example. Now you've got the pieces you need. And the other move that I would make is Juszczyk's going to be 35. There's a guy from Indiana who's an H-back bowling ball who pancakes people. His name is Riley Kolkowski, and he would be ideal. He's a late pick. He's like 6th, 7th UDFA kind of a guy. He's at the end of the draft, but he's exactly who they need to replace Juszczyk. He's fast. He pancakes. He catches. He had 32 catches this year, a couple tight end touchdowns. He's who they need. He's the H-back that would replace Juice. You do that. Now you've got speed and power, which is what they need in the run game.
Speed and power. Really quick, this is off topic from the things that the 49ers need to improve themselves and eventually be able to match up with the Seahawks. Because the thing is, when people are like, why, obviously Seahawks won the Super Bowl, but I've gotten a DM like, the 49ers want to win the Super Bowl. It's not all just about the Seahawks. To get to the Super Bowl, you have to get to the playoffs. To get to the play and be successful in the playoffs. To do those things, you need to win games in your division. So the 49ers it's kind of a miracle that they were able to win the first matchup at the start of the year with the Seahawks. The last two matchups, they weren't even competitive.
Right.
The 49ers need to, at best, split with the Seahawks in order to have a shot at, a bye week, especially when we're talking about older players. But
and the Rams, both teams. I mean, the two best teams in the NFC are in your division. The reality remains that the only time the Niners have gone to the Super Bowl under Kyle is when they had the 1 seed. To get the 1 seed, you have to win the division. Period. That's exactly it. It's you have to get past Seattle and the Rams if you want to have your best chance of winning the Super Bowl or getting there. You have to win the division. It's not an if; it's a must.
Yeah,
and therefore you got to be able to match up with Seattle and the Rams.
Really quick breaking news. I heard about this like a little while ago, but I wasn't sure if it was real or not because it was a Twitter DM. But now it's been confirmed, and Adam Schefter, Ari Mirov are all reporting on it. 49ers defensive lineman Keon White was a victim of a shooting and sustained a bullet wound to his ankle this morning in San Francisco. He is currently undergoing surgery at a local hospital. Team will provide further updates when appropriate. Apparently, it was a private party at Delilah in the Mission where Little Baby and his crew were. White refused to tell the police who shot him. But yeah, 49ers, that happened.
That's really sad.
Yeah, and it sounds less like a robbing or anything. It was more of a party where maybe there was groups of people that weren't getting along, is what it sounds like. And,
Yeah,
and it happened around 3 or 4 a.m. So, go home.
Okay.
That's a good lesson. Nothing great happens after the clubs are supposed to close. Yeah. And that's not to blame Keon White. It's just me being an older person. I think it's you got to be able to go out and have fun, but there becomes a time where people have been drunk for too long and they start making stupid decisions. And that doesn't mean Keon White was. We don't know the details. But
yeah, we have no way of knowing, but it's just better safe than sorry and stuff like this. You got to be more cautious. You're an NFL athlete. You're one of a billion. You have to be very careful with your life. So I hope that he'll recover and be okay. But gee, that's
it's a bummer because you and I were just opening the show saying, you had thousands of people here in town for the Super Bowl talking about how beautiful it was, what a great culture it was. And for the most part, it went off without a hitch. There was, nothing but positivity to come out of the week. And I think when big groups of people have, gather like this, there is a fear that okay, eventually could something go wrong, not just in San Francisco, but anywhere.
Yeah. Conflicts emerge.
They just barely, they felt like they made it. And then it turns out not exactly. Like I said, this is not a lot of info. I'm really glad that it was, and I'm not trying to say I'm glad it's his ankle. I don't want to be shot anywhere, but I'm glad it was his ankle compared to anything else. And that he's.
Yeah. The Niners are lucky that 2 of their players have been shot and lived.
Yeah. Seriously. What the hell?
Scary thing.
So I'll provide further updates as those, come out, but.
Yeah, we don't know. You can speculate about if it, as Marcus points out, it might have been an accidental discharge. We don't know.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's okay. It's good to hear that he's not in any serious condition.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm just checking not trying to look at my phone, but checking it right now because I saw someone in the chat talking about it, and I had read a DM on Twitter right before the stream, but I didn't take it serious because it was just from a person that wasn't.
Yeah, it was just one. Now it's consensus. Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't want to leave on that note. I did want to address it because I didn't want to not talk about it. Obviously.
Yeah. No, you should.
I might try to hard switch just to leave us on something else. We talked about speed, skill position player, interior offensive line. I think we talked about things that on the offense to try to go against a dominant defense in Seattle. Do you think the 49ers need to get back to having a dominant defense themselves? Like I said, Seattle, what was so impressive with them this year is how aggressive and physical they were to have the lowest blitz rate in the NFL and still be continuously getting pressure. That to me rings of previous 49er teams where when you look at the 2 49er teams that got to the Super Bowl, I would have said, if you said, pick which part of this team is most important, I would have picked their defense. And what's so cool for the Seahawks, not really for the Niners, is when that was the case for the Niners, the offense pretty much just had to not mess up, and they won, but they messed up, so they lost. The Seahawks were able to just do enough on offense to let their defense carry them to the victory. Do the 49ers on defense, what do they need to do? Obviously, I flagged that Kyle was really talking about that safety. To me, I was like, does this mean they're going to be going after safeties in the draft? Or maybe Kyle was just praising someone. What about their defensive line? Obviously, getting Nick Bosa's back is going to help. But going into Indy, are they going to be looking at that? I feel like they did use a lot of.
They should. So first up, safety. There's a safety from Toledo, Emmanuel McNeil Warren. He's really good. He's the kind of safety that Raheem would love because he's great against the run. He's exceptionally smart. Kyle would love that he's got a quarterback safety. And he's a ball skills player too. And he can cover. And it's just his completion rate against was best in the country, 37.5%. That's how good this guy is in coverage. You want to put somebody on a tight end and make him go away, EMW is your guy. So, yeah, would I go bonkers if they drafted him at 27? Yes. Will they? Probably not.
Yeah.
But I would hope that they at least consider it. But my guess is that last year they went defense. This year, and they went defense because they brought Saleh in. I think that it was part of the pitch to Saleh is we're going to let you draft picks.
Yeah.
And I think that this year Kyle is going to say, okay, it's my turn. And he's going to do what he can. Mr. Corey, yeah, top 15, we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. Most of the mocks that I've seen have EMW in the 20s, and it can go anywhere from 22 to like 28 in there. The Niners picked 27th. So, they would have the flexibility if they wanted to move up to get him if they want.
Yeah.
But my guess is, though, that, as I was saying with Ashley here, they're probably going to go offense because Kyle was denied offensive picks last year, and he's going to say, my turn. Yeah. And I think that he's going to want his picks. And that's probably going to be a wide receiver because that's what they need, and that's what Kyle does. And then you just have to hope that whoever he takes at 27, his name isn't Casey Concepcion or Denzel Boston. And we'll see. But, yeah, I'm also jaded, very obviously, and I'm also can be negative Nancy. So hopefully the Niners are smart. Hopefully they do what they can, but we'll see. I hope that they'll consider EMW because I think he's a great safety and he fits exactly what they need and exactly what Raheem wants and what Raheem had with Jesse Bates in Atlanta. It fits. But do I think they'll do it? No. So the other stuff on defense, edges, I think they'll probably do that in free agency. There's a lot of talk of Joey Bosa. I would go after Owe from the Chargers, but he'll be really expensive. At linebacker, they have needs there, but the linebackers are good in this draft. Second, third, fourth, you can get good value. Backs, there's the deep drafted DB until about the fourth, so they can get somebody good there. Safety, there's good players. It's just that you have to pick the player they want and need, and the player they want and need is early. So I hope that they value safety enough to take one early, but I'm not sure they will.
They could do that same trade-up deal that you talked about with Mac Jones, but instead of for the tight end, get that guy. But then the issue is they still need to use at least their second-round pick then on a skill position player because that's
Kyle's going to want one, and because that's what you should do. So, receiver is going to be really good in the second round, and so that could be where they go. But I think that what you want to do is you want to see offensive line as early as possible, and I don't blame you. I'm with you on that, but I don't think that it's reasonable to expect Kyle to do that given his history. Hopefully, he's willing to do that in free agency, and that's going to be a big sign. If they don't sign a guard in free agency, then that's a sign that they're going to look to draft one, hopefully. If Kyle doesn't do either one, you're going to say, what are you doing? Because you get on TV in front of most of the country and say, Seattle wins because you can't run on them.
Yeah.
Because their safeties are back in the parking lot preventing explosives, and we can't run on them anyway because their front four is too good. Okay. So why don't you invest in offensive line then?
Yeah. Tom, I thought that was so interesting.
Okay.
He's like on national TV explaining that the way he drafts, his strategy is incorrect or at least won't hold up against the Seahawks. And there's like no internal reflection that like he's talking about the Patriots Seahawks. So I feel like he allowed himself to be honest. And it's like, wait, this also applies to you and your team in just 2 weeks. What are you doing?
It's almost like you want to play that videotape back for him. And Kyle, before we make this pick, I want you to see this. And it's Kyle explaining you have to be able to run on Seattle. And then you come back to him and you say, and you don't want to draft an offensive lineman in this draft? Really? So yeah, I would blackmail him with himself.
That's what I'm saying. There's some scouts in those meeting rooms that he always gets to veto and go first, and they're just sitting there watching that. Like, I'm gonna record this and play it for you, and you're gonna make this argument to yourself when you're trying to convince yourself that we need
if only. But that's the key, is that if the Niners want to close the gap, then Kyle has to be honest with himself.
Yeah.
The way you close the gap with Seattle is by being able to run on them. And so you have to have a team-wide strategy on how to do that. You have to get faster at running back. You have to get a tight end that can block. You have to get multiple tight ends that can block. You have to get a wide receiver that can block. And you have to have a left guard that can win his matchup individually against the Seattle interior defensive line. You got to do all of those things. That's 5 guys.
Yeah.
If you add a replacement for Juszczyk. So it would do all of that stuff. And I hope that Kyle is willing to take it that far. But it goes against all of his history to do it, though.
What's shitty, and I know Jed York tried to, excuse the draft mistakes and even the Trey Lance thing. And he was like, well, we ended up getting Purdy. And it's like, the reason that those arguments don't work is because now you're in a position where you need 4 to 5 stars in all these different position groups on your team, and they're all so important that it's like you need to use a first-round pick for it. And guess what? You would have been able to do that, but you wasted 3 first-round picks. And then since then, you've missed or wasted every first-round pick in the last 3 drafts.
Well, and not just first, second, third. Yeah. And you can't run a team that way. People that defend the Niners will say, well, but they had Kittle. He was in the 5th. They had Greenlaw. He was in the 5th. They had Fred. He was in the 3rd. Yeah, but when you miss on your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, look at Seattle in contrast. Seattle in the last 3 years, 1st, 2nd alone, 9 stars, 9 starters. Niners 1.
Yeah.
I mean, that's everything right there. It's you have to be able to hit on those guys. But beyond that, Kyle has to make the quantitative leap in his mindset that you have to expand what you're willing to draft. Right now, Kyle is only willing to draft speed at offensive line. He has to expand that to speed, size, power. Got to be all 3.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, you're going to lose. I mean, look at New England. They drafted 4th, and they took Will Campbell, and he was a banana peel in that game. 14 pressures against. You kidding?
Every time the Seahawks went to rush Drake May, you were just looking at Campbell, waiting for him to make a mistake.
Right.
It became like the most interesting part of the game. It's just like watching this guy whip.
Yeah, just watching it. It was just this slow motion train wreck. Yeah. Mr. Corey, I'm with you all the way. I wanted Walter Nolan most. That was my guy. I only
put that up because Tom talked so much about Walter Nolan going into the draft. So now we don't know. Hopefully Michael will come back healthy and end up being what he wanted to be. And it'll be interesting to see him in Raheem Morris's scheme. But it's a lot to come back from these injuries and to be as good. So luckily he's young. But yeah, that's just why I was frustrated listening to Jed York make excuses, because I see so many glaring holes on this team. And it's like, well, if you would have just hit on some of these draft picks, you would be able to be much more decisive of the position groups that you need, because it wouldn't be like desperate to find playmakers on every single, position group on the team, which is what they need right now, because they've missed so much. They have holes.
It accumulates. All the holes accumulate.
It's accumulated, and now they're at a pivotal moment where they have no choice but to fill these things and to put a ton of resources, free agency, and draft picks into this. And they kind of dug themselves in that hole by making such terrible mistakes with their big trades up, and also just a small miss after miss.
The annual mistakes of just blowing the picks, plus the Trey Lance trade, combined with everything else they've done, it's just it doesn't add up. But yeah, you go through the offense and you say, okay, what do they need? They need 10 new guys on offense, 10 draft picks on offense alone.
Yeah.
You need 5 new offensive linemen. You need the future for Trent Williams, the replacement there. You need the starting left guard. Brendel is old. You're going to need a center to replace him. Pooney is okay, but Pooney doesn't have a backup. And right tackle, you don't have a backup either. So right there's 5 offensive linemen. You need a backup tight end so that you can run 2 tight end offense. You need a replacement for Juszczyk.
Be there to start.
You need 3 wide receivers and a running back 1. That's just your offense. And then on defense, you need a pass rushing defensive tackle, a pass rushing edge, a playmaking high impact linebacker, a boundary corner who can defend the run, and preferably 2 brand new safeties. So by the time you're done with all that, you got 16 guys. And that's what happens. They had the worst draft in the league in 22, the worst draft in the league in 23. They didn't spend in free agency last year. All of that adds up. You got an empty cupboard.
Are you listening?
They created this.
Yeah. John Lynch, are you listening? Do you want to keep your job? Make
Hopefully
magic happen.
And if there's one thing they have to do, it's replace Lynch within a year. They need a new outside GM who's got personnel control above Kyle to make those picks in next year's draft, because next year's draft is absolutely pivotal.
Can you give us one reason to be optimistic? Because I'm feeling how Julie feels.
Yeah, there is reason to be optimistic if they get it right. And they can. It's just, will they? Will Jed be willing to spend? I mean, you can have reasonable spending in free agency and still have high impact. Yeah. ETN, the running back that I want, he's 10 to 12. Seumalo is probably 12 to 15. Yeah. You can get Leo Chenal at linebacker. He's like 6 to 8. All of those are reasonable free agent prices that you can get. You can't get Oweh. You can't get some of these other guys, but you're not going to get them anyway. I mean, fans want Pierce. No, he's going to get $30 million according to ESPN. I want Kyle Pitts. Stefanski went to Atlanta because of Kyle Pitts. He has a tight end based offense. I want Tyler Linderbaum. Linderbaum has already said he absolutely wants to return to Baltimore. So fans can hope for these 3 guys. It's not going to happen. So how can it happen? These other people who can really help. This offense with ETN, this offense with Sadiq, this offense with Seumalo, that's a way better team than what they've got right now. That's the optimism, is they can do this, and it's not something that's shooting for the moon where they're going up against the entire league and the players wanting 25, 30 million. No. You can get this done on their budget. And if you do the right things in the draft to complement that, you have a way better team next year. They can do it. Will they? We'll find out.
I like that. Okay. I think that Tom gave us, hopefully, now obviously this comes with the caveat that they have to be smart and willing to do that. You need to start dumping the old guys in their high salaries. And that's what Tom's saying. Like, he's saying you're going to do a mix of smart drafting. So you need to bring guys in from the draft on way lower contracts and young, speed, athletic, all the reasons why it's important to have that youth on your team. But you have to supplement that with people in free agency. And you don't necessarily need to go out and get the stars in free agency. I think the goal is to eventually you're drafting the stars and you're supplementing in free agency.
Exactly right.
You're going to overpay. So you'd rather get the not mediocre.
Good. Like you want starter level guys with an impact. They're not necessarily superstars, but they're guys that can really help your team.
Yes.
Free agents that are in the 10 to 15 range can really help the Niners if they do that. But that requires Jed spending the money to do even that much. And then the Niners being smart enough to know, we're not going to have this all-out one swing. We're going to have 3 swings at players that can all start and help. And if they do that, and you say, okay, ETN, Seumalo, and Chenal, 3 new starters at 3 of the biggest positions of need, you've helped your team immensely. And then they have to commit to replacing the old core through the draft, and you have to replenish your star core. You have to draft eventually a great tight end, a great wide receiver, a great running back, a great left tackle. But you don't have to all do that in this draft. You have to do some of it in this draft. They can.
I think we're going to end it off there. I saw someone bringing up some of the receivers and running backs that they've drafted over the years. I'll still be interested in Jordan James. I think, just because they just drafted him.
He can help some, but I wouldn't expect a ton.
I think it's kind of over for hoping for Cowing and those guys.
Though Jordan Watson might still be able to have some impact. Yeah. We'll see. Basically, it's Kyle will redshirt you if you get injured during the camp install of the offense. If you miss the install, you're done.
Yeah,
and Kyle has made that clear. So what they need most from their draft picks is guys that don't get hurt during the install who are on offense.
Yeah. This is very quick, and then I do have to get out. Guerrero, to me, is out. He's fumbled a bunch in practice. And so they don't trust him enough to give him the ball in real games. And Tom and I have had lots of arguments with whether or not that's fair or not, because obviously Christian McCaffrey has fumbled in real games, including literally the Super Bowl. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm saying that is their logic. That's why Isaac is not going to see the field. Jacob Cowing, I don't think Kyle has not suggested any sort of eagerness to get him on the field, trust to get him on the field, even when he's healthy this year. I kind of think he's a wash. Watkins, I do agree with Tom. If he can be healthy during training camp and all that, I think we will see him. A lot of what slowed him down was he missed those install periods, and then Kyle always felt like he was behind. And you have to remember, Kyle was a wide receiver himself and puts way more expectations on what he wants his wide receivers to know versus basically any other position group.
True.
So I don't think Watkins is a complete wash. We could see a resurgence of him if he's healthy and capable throughout install and training camp and all that. And then Jordan James, same thing. I liked what I saw at the very end. Do I ever think he's going to be the number one guy or even number two guy? No, but he's on the team for cheap, so he's going to continue to be there.
Yeah.
That's my quick response to that. But I love you guys so much. For some reason, I feel like the show flew by. We've been talking for an hour.
It was fun. We zoomed through it. Yeah.
I had more. But the good thing about that is Tom and I will be going live next week. And to my surprise, because I couldn't believe that it was that quickly, it'll be like the week before the combine that Tom and I are going live. So
yeah, we'll have a combine preview next time.
Exactly. We'll do a preview, and I'll make sure that I'm prepared. Tom is always very prepared for all things when it comes to the draft, combine, and all that. So I'll make sure to learn from Tom to steal his info. And what is happening? Tom, this is my dad.
Your dad is saying it has to be OL. Well, my counter to that, Leroy, is but it's Kyle.
Yeah.
So Kyle has to be sold on it. And so it has to be speed. He won't consider an offensive lineman unless he runs that fast 20 shuttle. So who would do that? Maybe Monroe Freeland, tackle, emerging. Max Ihanachor from Arizona State, who played so well at Mobile. I think those are guys who will be there at 27 who they could consider. But either one of those guys is going to have to wow Kyle at Indy for him to consider him. Otherwise, Kyle will do Kyle. He'll take a wide receiver.
Yeah. We also have to remember, and I know I feel like when my dad is texting, sometimes it comes across more aggressive than he's actually meaning it.
I get what he means, but yeah.
But when Tom is saying that's not going to happen, Tom isn't saying I wouldn't do that. He's saying Kyle's not going to do that.
Right.
He's been really good at predicting the 49ers moves and Kyle's moves because Kyle is predictable for the last two draft rounds. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it being that tight end and them going O-line second round. I think the O-line is the most important, but I think they have so many positions that are, or so many weaknesses that if it was for the right player, I wouldn't totally hate it if they went O-line second round.
And if there's talent there is the point, is that there's good people that they can get at guard in the second round if they want to do that. But if Kyle's goal is, I want to run on Seattle next year, it's not a rookie. It has to be free agency because otherwise the rookie's going to lose the matchup to the interior Seattle defensive line. So if Kyle wants to have that, if he wants to win that matchup, it has to be free agency. I'm not saying it will, but in terms of draft prep, Leroy, I would say this. Look at Monroe Freeling from Georgia, tackle. Maxi Hanachor from Arizona State, tackle. The guy from Georgia Tech, center guard, who played well at Mobile. He's a guy they could look at in the second round. The guys who I don't think they'll consider at O-line are Caden Proctor. Kyle doesn't draft mountains. He's too big. I don't think that they're going to take Caleb Fanu or Caleb Lomu because they didn't even send a scout to BYU, Utah. That tells me they're not even interested in him. The other people, Jennings Dunker, the tackle from Iowa that everybody fell in love with at Mobile, he's too slow. He has to go to guard in the NFL, and he's way too slow to the second level. Ain't going to happen. Ione from Penn State, he's a Mahler phone booth guard. He's too slow. Kyle won't take him. So you have to get through the Kyle filter first, and that's why I'm saying the guys that can make that are Freeling and Ihanachor in the first round. Those are the guys. Don't look at Pregnon from Oregon, Ione from Penn State, Dunker from Iowa. Kyle won't take them.
Tom did a full breakdown of the Super Bowl. It's going to be up on Sports Illustrated. Follow Tom Ninercast on Twitter. Also, next stream, Tom, I want you to go over your background a little bit because some people were asking about that and just praising you in our last show in the comments.
Oh, cool.
But we're going to do that next week because I have a hard out and I got to run like this very second. But like I said, we're going to have a stream before the combine. Tom, as you can as you can see by the names he just rattled off, has so much information. So one, make sure to follow him, Ninercast on Twitter, read his articles, and make sure to subscribe next week because I will also be familiarizing myself with those people and gaining knowledge from Tom. And then we're going to bring it all to you to hit you hard so you know exactly who to look out for when people are talking about what's going on in Indy and the combine. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow Tom, and I love you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys in the chat, and I really appreciate you, Tom. Love you.